Welcome to another virtual chapel from Belhaven University. Before Dr. Parrott introduces today's guest speaker, let's remind ourselves that even though we can't gather together in large assemblies, even though it's been quite some time since we gathered in the Center for the Arts to sing hymns and songs of praise, there's still worship music happening on that stage. For example, here's a bit from 3 songs. Lauren Bell singing Give Me Jesus, Serenade in C by the Chamber Orchestra, and an original song by Oldham that celebrates the joy of being known by God.
Before the world, nothing hidden from your sight. Ordained were all my days, in your hands my frame was made. Oh, you knew it all. Search me, search my soul. May my heart be fully known by you, Lord. Search me, search my soul. May my heart be fully known by you, by you, by you. You know when I rise, even when I fall sometimes, every thought upon my mind before words are are brought to life. Oh, you knew it all. Search me, search my soul. May my heart be fully known by you, Lord. Search me, search my soul. May my heart be fully known by you, by you, by you. For in fear and wonder I was made in your book were written. All my days when darkness covers, I will proclaim your good thoughts outnumber. My darkest days in your hand will lead in everlasting ways. Oh God, search me, search my soul. May my heart be fully known by you, Lord. Search me, search my soul. May my heart be fully known by you, by you, by you. May my heart be fully known by you.
Our chapel speaker today is a woman who works tirelessly on your behalf to assure that you have federal aid to go to school. She is the chief advocate for the Christian College and University Consortium of institutions representing about 150 schools across America that are committed to Christ-centered education like Belhaven. Joy Mosley is also a graduate of Belhaven, as she'll tell you. She works on Capitol Hill, not only with federal financial aid for you, but also working with the CCCU to provide international program experiences, advocating for student leadership, helping us with faculty and staff training, and then going to bat for this time of COVID to assure that Christian colleges were included, that provided us the kind of money we needed for testing and for all the other preventions we've taken during this time of COVID. So Joy is a great friend of Belhaven. She's got a message you need to hear today, and I hope you'll listen as Joy Mosley shares with us.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be with you. I'm honored to be speaking in chapel today. I want to introduce myself, tell you a little bit about the CCCU as well as myself. So I am Joy Mosley. I'm the Director of Government Relations for the Council for Christian Colleges and Universities. So the CCCU is a higher education association made up of Christian colleges from around the world. We have about 180 Christian colleges and then about 140 in the US. We represent around 445,000 current students and about 3.5 million alumni. So we do a number of different things at the CCCU, one of which is off-campus study programs. You might be familiar with our programs in Oxford, the Middle East, and Washington, D.C. And then what I do is I focus on advocacy. So we focus on advocacy things that affect our students and our campuses. So this is things like immigration. We work hard to create a bipartisan legislative solution that would be a long-term comprehensive immigration reform that would include a path for dreamers. We have dreamers on our campuses. We have DACA recipients on our campuses. We have family members of DACA recipients who would like to come to college but need aid and need status in order to do so. We work on financial aid issues, including increasing the Pell Grant, allowing prisoners to use Pell Grants. We do a lot of work with prison education. And then religious freedom is a big piece of our advocacy work. So a little bit about me. I attended Covenant College for undergrad and then actually Belhaven for my master's, so go Blazers. Then I worked for a little bit at Covenant College and went back to law school at Emory, and now work in DC at the CCCU. So when Dr. Parrott asked me to speak in chapel this year, he shared the verse of the year, which is Psalm 112:4. Light dawns in the darkness for the godly. They are generous, compassionate, and righteous. And so I really liked that verse and thought that it would be helpful to structure my talk around the theme of light and darkness. When you work in politics, those are easy themes to talk about. So what I like about this verse is that it acknowledges the reality of darkness. And I think this is in and of itself good news. Our darkness, our woes, our distresses, these are known to God. He is not blind. He is not unaware. So I shared a little bit about my role earlier, and I want to acknowledge some of the darkness that I see in the political realm. So first, the attack on the Capitol. We saw a violent mob storming the Capitol, looting, attacking police officers, trying to disrupt our Electoral College certification process. Some more darkness that has been laid bare is the racial injustice and systemic racism brought to the surface with the killing of George Floyd, among others. These darknesses are visible, and we feel them acutely. But another aspect of darkness that I see in my role is a little less visible, and that is that a robust view of pluralism, which is where we can all live together even with deep disagreements, is in danger of being replaced by coercion to a particular viewpoint, where disagreement is not tolerated. So one example that might be relevant to you as students is something called the Equality Act. This is an act that would enshrine LGBT protections in federal civil rights law, but it would do so at the expense of religious freedom protections. So one of the religious freedom threats in the law is funding. So it would actually strip funding, federal funding, which would be Pell Grants, work study, student loans, from colleges and other organizations that adhere to a traditional sexual ethic, a biblical sexual ethic. And it includes a lot of other threats as well to religious freedom and to people who live out their sincerely held religious beliefs in work and in life and in charities, and it would even churches. And so I have to say that in my role before and in my work before, this particular type of darkness was not really known to me. Not really. I didn't see it for the threat it was. And now I'm more aware of these religious freedom threats. But thankfully, that's not where the story ends. So the verse says, light dawns in the darkness. So while this role has exposed me to new types of darkness, it's also exposed me to so much more light than I knew previously. So one thrilling source of light for me has been our students and alumni. The CCCU recently named the 2021 Young Alumni Award winner, which was Emmanuel McNeely, who's a Palm Beach Atlantic grad pursuing his MD. Emmanuel recognized what he called a leaky pipeline for minority students pursuing medicine. So he founded the Dr. MD Project to increase the number of underrepresented minorities who successfully pursue degrees in medicine. Or consider our 2020 winner, a Wheaton grad named Graham Smith, who lives off of the 90-10 rule, which is living on 10% of his income while giving away 90%. Can you imagine? He and his wife created a restaurant that employs many previously incarcerated individuals and gives away 100% of the profits to sustainable charitable work. And then, of course, I have to mention our 2018 winner, Belhaven graduate Angie Thomas. So I'm sure you're really familiar with her, but she wrote a best-selling book called The Hate You Give, and then recently followed it up with another book. But it's not just the Young Alumni Award winners who are a source of light. Did you know that CCCU graduates are more likely to go into careers that care for the poor, the needy, and the downtrodden? CCCU students choose careers like counseling, mental health work, community services. 13% of CCCU grads compared to 4% of students at other four-year institutions. Then I also have the privilege of working with many CCCU students on the Hill, students spreading light in their congressional work. And maybe one day I'll get to work with some of you. Another source of light would be members of Congress. I get to work with some great leaders who continually strive to integrate their faith in their work, and they stand up for the biblical principles and for the dignity of all people. So in thinking about these sources of light, what do they have in common? Well, they're people, they're Christians called to engage in the world. In short, they're you. In Matthew 5, Jesus says that you are the light of the world. A dark room does not light itself up. The light has to dawn. The light has to show up. You have to show up. You have to show up in the workplace, in your relationships, in your church, at home. So what does showing up mean for you? That's not something I can really answer for you, but I can share a little of my story in hopes that it encourages you. So as I mentioned, I started working at Covenant College. I started as a student and worked there for 10 years, and I loved it. I honestly thought I would retire there. But as I got to work more with faculty, I started discussing education policy issues and reading higher education journals for fun. I loved the larger education policy issues at the federal level. I wasn't sure how the Lord would use this passion, but I started to reach out to people who had a role that interested me. One of those people was the head of government relations for the CCCU. I loved higher education, and I loved Christian higher education. And so a role like that would enable me to advocate for Christian colleges at the federal level. Sounded like a dream job. The person in the role at that time encouraged me to consider law school, which a few other colleagues had suggested. And if showing up meant law school, well, I didn't want to do that. Law school's scary. Law school's hard. Law school's expensive. I had a job. I had income. I didn't want to give that up to go back to law school. But the Lord kept calling me to show up in that way. So I went to law school and I loved it. It was exactly what the Lord had for me. I was able to intern on the Hill and for the Center for Public Justice in DC. And then I actually got that very dream job that interested me at the beginning. In my role now, I get to work with Congress, with the White House, and in the courts to advocate for Christian higher education. For me, showing up was hard. It was scary. And sometimes I doubted whether I could do it. But it was the right thing, and the Lord has blessed that. As Christians, God has called you to be his light in the world. How are you going to show up and be light in dark places? I encourage you to pray about how the Lord might be leading you to show up. And however he calls you, be encouraged because the light will dawn in the darkness for the godly. Will you pray with me? Dear Heavenly Father, thank you that we can cry, Abba, Father, that we can come to you when darkness feels near. Lord, sometimes the darkness can feel overwhelming, but your promises are true and steadfast, and you promise that your grace is sufficient for us. You are light, and you have called us to be your light in the world and to let that light shine. I pray that we would be emboldened to show up in the spaces you have for us, wherever that might be. Give us courage to fulfill our calling, steadfastness to continue even in darkness, and humility to always point others to you. We love you and we praise you. Amen.